Hello there, World of Tankers. Welcome to the channel. Hopefully all of you are doing well out there. I'm, of course, your host, Untitled Blitz, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about the Tier 10 German super heavily armored tank destroyer, the Yagponzer E100. Now, this is a vehicle that I really enjoy playing sometimes, and as well, I hate other times, because it can be very good. I can get 5,000, 6,000 damage games out in this vehicle, and then you'll play a game where you do 2,000, or even a 0, and your team completely falls apart, and there's nothing you can do about it. And I like this type of tank because it's got a lot of benefits, but as well, it's got a lot of downsides. Certain maps aren't necessarily the best. A good example is Canyon, and hopefully we're not going to get Canyon in today's video. But the reason I'm making today's video in the first place is because I saw Pantoufle's video about 3 days ago saying that the Yagdpanzer was the most pointless tier 10 tank destroyer in Blitz. And while I do agree with him on certain points, that it can be very, very easy to take apart if you're shooting it on the side. The lower plate can be easy as well. But at the same time, it's got a lot of good things going for it that I wanted to cover in today's video. Now, of course, I want to point this out that there's no hate here towards Pantouf. Everybody's allowed to have their own personal opinion. That's something that's great about YouTube, is that everybody can have their own freedom of speech, say what they feel about a tank, especially for Blitzes. He can say that, the Badger or a vehicle that I absolutely love. The Badger is not a tank I absolutely love, but let's say the Action 10. If he said the Action 10 was a terrible tank, it's of course his personal opinion. If he thinks that there's downsides to it, and I disagree with him, well, that's the great thing about YouTube, is that you can all voice your own opinions, and there's diversity out there, so you can hear different voices on how a tank is. So in today's video, I wanted to voice my own personal opinions on the Yagdpanzer, agree with some of the stuff he says, but as well, talk about my own opinions on how I feel he's a little bit off on certain other areas. Now, what is good about the Yagdpanzer and what is bad? So of course, the main thing that everybody wants about this vehicle is the gun. It's a 170mm gun capable of dealing 800 average damage, which is really, really strong. That means that if you're aiming at any other vehicle apart from a 183, you are easily going to be able to outtrade it. And even if they hit you, 800 damage, no problem whatsoever. I'll be taking that trade all day long. And the nice thing about it is that if you penetrate just 4 simple shells, you will easily be over the 3,000 damage barrier. Now, not only does the Yagdpanzer carry a very good gun, it's also got good dispersion values on that gun. It's got 0.285 dispersion if you are running a refined gun. If you're not, it's 0.317. It's got really solid DPM at 2,984, and the penetration on the standard is 314, and the premium being 418. It is through the roof. So it's got a lot of good things going for it, and even the heat shells on this tank, which are dealing less average damage at 680, still have the ability to roll upwards of around 800, which is really, really strong. So I personally do like the Yagdpanzer. It's got good things. As Pantouf, I think, said, it's got good frontal armor. The nice thing is that I can sit in front of the heavy tanks, which you're going to see me do here on Falls Creek. I'm going to sit right up at that bush there, hopefully, as long as no teammates don't block me, and I should be able to outtrade not only enemy heavies that push there, but as well, I should easily be able to bounce some shells if I angle it correctly. Now, the weak spots on the Yagdpanzer, first of all, is that massive lower plate. That can be very easy to penetrate. It's pretty much the same hull as an E100. And the E100's got some big weak spots. First of all, the side armor is weak. You can shoot through that front track wheel at an angle like this with pretty much any tank in the game, and it's easily going to penetrate it, not only ripping off that front track link, but as well damaging the vehicle, which is not necessarily what you want. Now, let's see if the enemy tanks are going to push here. I've got my tank positioned in a very good spot. That way, if anybody does end up pushing here, which it doesn't look like they're actually going to be doing, we're going to push up over here. So I'm going to push forwards right now because it looks like the entire enemy team is pushing off to the side. Now, if that's correct, we should be spotting them. As you can see, right off to the side, we have spotted the Chieftain Mark 6 as well. There's the Yagdpanzer pushing off. So we got some nice spots, which is really, really good for us. That means that if that Mark 6 ends up backing up here, which he might just do, or the E3 climbs up the hill, ooh, he was about to back up. Come on, Mark 6, you know you want to. I'll just be waiting here if you need me. But the great thing is that with the Alpha, people really don't want to poke this vehicle. And there's a perfect example. 848 hit points taken off of that Chieftain Mark 6. That is about it's a big chunk of his HP, of course, that I've taken off in just a quick matter of time. Oh boy, that's poor E3 just lost a huge chunk of his hit points. Again, you can see that it's massive when you're able to deal big chunks of damage because it stops entire enemy positions when you're able to do it correctly. So we got the Chieftain pushing up and turn, boom! Finishing off the Chieftain Mark 6 for another big ol' shell of 564. The T110E3 is already pretty much just demolished on the enemy team, and there's not much left apart from maybe the Yagdpanzer. We've got the E50M and the 30B, but our team easily scoffed all the hit points up, and this wasn't too bad, to be fair. Now, I'm of course going to push in to see if I can support my team as much as I possibly can. I don't see the bat chat. Doesn't look like it's anywhere near me, although, boom, big shot into the bat chat. As you can see, again, that big alpha being able to bring out those big ol' shells, and one thing I love about this tank. So, yeah, you can see that it's not that bad in positioning if you get it correct. Now, we got like the 30B off to the side, who again we're aiming in on. There's another nasty shell. And with that, we are not necessarily the highest of damage this battle. We're sitting at around 2,900, but still, that's a very, very impressive amount when you do think that I literally got like 3 shells out and just drove the rest. So let's see if we can get some shells out into the Yagpanzer. I believe we can get a shell out. Come on, yeet. Oh. No! Oh, I played myself. That was sad. Okay, we're just going to drive on top of him. Maybe we're going to get some hit points if we just jump on him. Come on, give me the damage. Yes, I'll take it. That was about 3,000 damage we were able to break just because we were able to jump on his vehicle. So, I can't complain. The first game, as you can see, even though it was a very weird battle and the enemy team pushed over to the medium side, we were still able to do a very impressive amount of damage, 3,152. So, of course, let's load in the one more game, see if we can keep up that goodness, or if it's going to fall apart very, very quickly. Because not only does this tank have the good alpha going for it, as you saw there, we were able to clear that AMX 30B. I wasn't even worried about him because it would have killed him with a standard shell. The bat chat, which was a really big threat to me, 1 shell and his entire hit point pool was literally stripped of him. The ability to rip literally the half of any tier 8, or not tier 8, imagine if this played tier 8s, ooh, but pretty much the ability to rip off half of any tier 9 vehicle's hit points. Even in E75, you're still ripping about 1/3 of its HP off in a standard shell. So you gotta be careful when you've got a vehicle like this on the enemy team, and judging that they don't have any big alpha vehicles, I've got a very big advantage on the fact that I don't need to worry about when I'm trading shells. So you can see, I'm gonna be pushing this vehicle over towards the heavy side. Now the reason for that being is because, as Pantoof pointed out in his video, which I completely agree with, this vehicle, you have to know where you're pushing. It has a lot of weaknesses. Mediums are the biggest weak link. Of course, high alpha DPM tanks are also very big weak spots, like the WZ-113 can rip this thing apart, or tank destroyers, but the biggest killer is mediums, because of course, they're the ones that are going to be penning you. They got accurate guns. Not only are they going to be penning you, but as well, they're going to track you. They're going to hit you when you're in the open. So those are the tanks that you really got to worry about. Now, I'm, of course, pushing my tank to a spot where I can shoot the mediums like that E50M on the enemy team. We're going to aim in and fire, and that looks like it did connect. Now, if I'm correct on that, we should be sitting at around 800 damage already this game. We've got the tortoise off to the side here, and this is where that alpha is key. You can see here in just about 3 seconds, we're about to rip a huge hole into this tortoise. There you go, 905. 1 shell, and we've brought what was a full health tier 9 tank destroyer down to half of his hit points, which of course is just detrimental. It's actually ridiculous how much damage this thing is able to do. Now, I don't even need a standard shell to finish him off. Nice HE right into his vehicle, and he is taken out. Now again, just sit here, start reloading. This is all you do in the Yag. This is literally it, and it's got such a nice alpha. Plus that armor, it gives it really a strong sense in the battle. Now we got that E50 off to the back here again, who is looking quite scared, and of course, there's not much he can do about a heat shell with 418 millimeters of pen. As you can see again, it wasn't necessarily the most damage we've pulled out already, but a very impressive amount, judging that we've only fired about 4 shells. And again, you can see, and as I said, easily, with 4 shells, you're going to be breaking 3,000 damage. And we're sitting at around, what? It's 2,900 this game, and that was with 1 heat shell. So, yeah, we're going to try and get some shells into maybe the WZ-113. We also got, like, the Yag off to the side, who I can't HE, but no problem, because, of course, I'll just tap him with a standard shell for, again, 800 damage. So, yeah, we're easily sitting above 3,000 damage now. We're going to get 1 shell, hopefully, into the WZ-113. This is going to be even a nice ram if we play this correctly. There you go, nice ram for 266, and finish him off with a nice tap right into the hull armor. All that's left is the enemy T-57 Heavy, who, if this Conqueror would move his hull, we're going to try and shoot. Let's just drive our way right over the ridge. Come on, drive. Drive. This thing is not very quick, of course, but speed does not matter every time. HE! Oh, 1,200 damage. So as you can see, the Yagpanzer is a really strong tank. It's got the HE capabilities, like you saw there at the end, to rip into an enemy opponent. 5,700 damage this game. Nice shots into the tortoise, and as you saw, I played it correctly. I penned all 7 of my shells. If you let it aim in, it hits its shots. The armor works well, but even if you don't use your armor, 2 average rolls on this E50M, and I was able to deal 1,784 hit points. Literally, all of his health was taken away in 2 shots. We ruined his game. You shoot the tortoise twice, he would have been dead with 2 average shells, but even without 2 average shells and that E5 shooting him and my teammate, we still took 1,200 off him. The Yagdpanzer 810, the 113 739, and the 57 heavy with 1 shell, 1,194 damage, and that's a low roll for the HE. So, as you can see, my personal opinion is that the Yagdpanzer can be a very strong tank if it's played correctly. It's got a lot of situational spots where it will fall apart quickly. On Canyon, it can be very, very agonizing to run this tank, but on maps, even if they're tricky, like Dynasty, if you know where to push it, and you can push it correctly, you can pull out very high damage games. So as I said, I'm not disagreeing with Pantouf. I think that his opinions are how he feels and how his own playstyle is on the vehicle. Of course, for him, he doesn't like the tank, and my phone almost just fell off my counter. But for me personally, I love the tank. It's really strong, it's able to get out super high damage games, and because of that, I'm actually going to say it's one of the stronger tier 10 tank destroyers. So hopefully you enjoyed today's video. Other than that, hopefully all of you are doing well out there. Please consider smashing that subscribe button down below, and I'll be seeing you in the next one.